Kalle Sauerland, another big event for Misfits. KSI headlining this Saturday. So first thing I want to ask you about is the event in itself. What kind of numbers do you think it'll draw compared to the previous KSI fights?
I think the most. I think it's the one with, I'm going to say, the most traditional storyline. But it's one where you're looking at, what KSI wants to achieve. That's legacy. You're looking at a very similar fight that happened earlier this year with, let's say, the main rivals, KSI and Jake Paul. Jake Paul attempted similar with Tommy Fury, came up short, and, here we are. Joe Fournier, also from the professional ranks, former WBA international champion, undefeated, very similar from that respect. So it's the same ask. Let's see what the outcome is.
I've seen you in a few interviews, talk about this WBA title and Jay Fournier's credibility. I was looking at some comments online. Do you think Joe, if he competed domestically, would he be capable of winning, say, an English title, for example?
Joe, yeah. I mean, let's also be honest. He's not a spring chicken, yeah. But Joe, we saw it in the exhibition fight with David Hay. Yeah, he can box. Yeah, he's quite spiteful. Would he ever have been a world champion? Absolutely not. Do I think Tommy Fury will ever be a world champion? I severely doubt it. But at the same time, they're solid pros. Yeah. People talk about padded records, mate. You tell me a pro at 8-0 who ain't got a padded record, right? Apart from Vasyl Lomachenko. Do not come with that answer, right?
Joe Joyce.
Yeah, no, there's exceptions, Olympians and stuff like that, but both Joe Fournier and Tommy Fury are not successful Olympians, yeah? So, no, not buying that. They haven't got padded records. That's the records you have when you're an 8-0, 9-0 fighter. End of.
Fair play. And I don't know if you saw comments from Jake Paul recently.
Agree to that point. Just saying fair play. I like that. No, back and forth.
I can't offer my opinion. I just like asking the questions. Jake Paul did an interview the other day, and he basically kind of ridiculed what you guys are doing on Misfits, basically saying it's more like WWE wrestling, and you don't take boxing, the sport, serious enough. And it's Jake Paul. Nate Diaz.
Yeah.
So
what's Nate Diaz?
UFC fighter.
Yeah, well, there you go. Am I going to actually answer the question? So you're telling me a comment on a man, Jake Paul's comment was, we do things like the WWE. He's fighting the UFC superstar. I don't know. What the fuck's that got to do with boxing? Right? Yeah, so what? We are a bit WWE. We like that. But there's also some serious fights, and there's some very unserious. Not unserious, because it's all serious. Boxing is serious, full stop, right? I don't need Jake Paul to tell me that. I've been brought up in a boxing family. I'm 23 years in the game, and I've promoted more heavyweight world title fights than he's had hot dinners, right? So I don't need my advice given to me by Jake Paul. No, not buying it, and happy to have a discussion with him on that subject. But no, good luck to him. It's a fun fight against Nate Diaz, by the way. I'm not looking at that fight, but don't come with you're doing a serious boxing thing and all that. No. What a crock of shit. What a crock of shit.
I love it. Kalle Sauerland's on smoke today. Realistically, so if KSI comes through this Saturday, who do you want him to fight next? I know names have been chucked around. Tommy, Jake Paul's the end goal. But realistically, what do you think you could make? Could he end up in Saudi? Because I've seen the Skills Challenge would still be interested in bringing Tommy back, and KSI and Tommy in Saudi could be a mega fight.
Yeah, I mean, look, what was planned was, and Jake, once to go back onto Jake Paul, Jake knows that. His manager, Nakaisa, received the contracts. It was back and forth for the lawyers, pretty much everything agreed. And then, obviously, Tommy happened. And we still said, well, let's go through with it. Yeah, it's still huge. But there was a U-turn, and I don't blame him. That's his decision. He's got to fight. I don't have to do the fight. We're looking at. Of course, we're looking at Tommy bloody Fury. I mean, who wouldn't be looking at Tommy Fury? He's beaten the man that people were calling the number one in this area. But at the same time, you know, we've had a very good meeting with John, you know, and we'll see after the fight. I don't like to. It's a big ask for him on Saturday, so I want to see what happens there from there. But of course, then, you know, you'd argue the man to beat after that is Tommy.
And Salt Poppy, he's already said he wants Tommy Fury next. So obviously that's what he's saying. But realistically, who do you think he'll go for next if he does come through Saturday night, and especially if he wins in style? Because I said to him,
I didn't hear he said Tommy. Be a good fight as well. I think the one that people want to see though is Tommy KSI. I think a lot of talk around KSI Salt Pappy as well. Also a very good fight. But he's got to get through Anthony Taylor on Saturday night. That's a tough fight.
if he stops Taylor, nobody's done that. That's a huge statement. You're going to struggle to hold him back, aren't you?
Huge statement. Huge statement.
How do you hold him back? Because he's going to have to fight professional fighters on the back end of that.
And it's going to be interesting because, you know, the Pappy team requested that the fight's reduced to 3 rounds. So I've just got this feeling that sort of fight, I don't know, that might come back to bite him in the backside, because Taylor gassed with Virgo. Okay, Virgo landed some very good body shots as well, to be fair. But when you got an Anthony Taylor who you know, he's going to come in swinging, and he knows he's only got to get through 3 rounds, then it starts to get very, very spicy, doesn't it? You know, I tell you, you lose the first round, you're suddenly in a position where you can't drop around. It's as simple as that. You know, it doesn't take a genius to work that out, but it's an important point to remember. So that first round is almost like a must-win round. Yeah, because or else you're looking at it and you're thinking, I've now got to win both rounds. It's not a nice position. It's not like going down 1-0 in football. Right? The pressure is completely different. It's in boxing. Going to be very, very interested in that fight on Saturday.
Definitely is. And just quickly, a couple of other subjects. We saw this morning boxer Ben Shalom pulled out Fraser Clark from the heavyweight purse bid. What do you make of the whole situation? Why do you think he was left till like 5 minutes before the purse bid? Is that normal?
Well, normally it's you've reached a deal. Like at the end of the day, it's only the promoter who can pull out the fight. The boxer isn't a licensed promoter, so he can't bid on the fight. You know, they pulled out the bid. That normally would mean they either haven't got a deal with their fighter, or they've got a better fight lined up, or they don't want to lose the bid. Now, I'm pretty sure that Fraser wants that fight. In fact, I know that Fraser wants that. I think everyone knows that Fraser wants that fight, and I think it's a great fight. I'd love to see that fight. So you're left with boxer didn't want to lose the bid, or boxer didn't have a deal with Fraser for that fight. So it's then difficult to bid.
From your 20 plus years experience in boxing, how would you explain to the armchair fan that that's not Fraser Clark ducking? In what sort of sense was that a business decision more than anything?
I've never done it in 23 years. I've never done it. I've paid a fighter, and this will sound a bit dodgy, but I paid a fighter off not to take a fight. He was offered a fight to...
Step aside money, yeah?
No, he was offered a fight to fight Baturbiev, young prospect, in Russia during lockdown, simply because it was difficult to get people over and they want to do a show in Russia. And I said, mate, the kid wanted to do it, and I'm like, no, you're not doing it, it's not happening, and here's a drink because I don't want you doing it. Because it was not, you know, I'm not going to say the kid, the name's Kid, probably going to go through now and see what light heavyweights we have. But it wasn't the time or the place in Russia to go and fight Baturbiev. But he was hell-bent on doing it. And I loved that part. So I was like, God, here you go, here's a drink, son, and go and have some downtime with the family, but it just weren't the right fight to do at that time. I mean, you know, I think anyone would agree with me. I've never pulled a fight out of a purse bid because you normally lose the fighter. So the question now will be the relationship between Fraser Clark and boxer must be at an all-time low. I know it hasn't been the highest ever, but the stock on that must be somewhere around where Bitcoin is today. I don't know, is Bitcoin up or down at the moment? I'm not sure.
No idea. And
Anyways, what is it? It'll be about as popular as fossil fuels.
And the last thing I want to speak to you about is Eddie Hearn was recently asked about a potential fight between Harlem Eubank and Conor Benn. He dismissed it completely. I think he kind of laughed it off. But Harlem is now 17-0. Conor's 21-0. The Eubank Junior fight might have sailed off now, potentially. Could it be realistic? Do you reckon you could convince Eddie Hearn and the fans out there that Harlem could step up and give us that Eubank Benn rivalry and the similar sort of weights?
Well, I don't know. I haven't seen the video with Eddie. He laughed it off on what basis? I mean, if he laughed it off on a sporting basis, I'll tell him beware, Edward, because Harlem he's a developing fighter, but he's much better than people think. And from a popularity point of view, he's had more viewers than Conor Benn's had in his whole career. So, he had 1.8 million viewers on his last fight. He had 1.7 million viewers on his fight before that. So I don't know, how many viewers has Conor Benn ever had? So I think there's other stuff to get sorted out around Conor Benn at the moment. But yeah, it's a fight I'll look at straight away, yeah. Is it a fight that we've talked about? No. Is it a fight that's top of their list right now? I think the top of their list right now is trying to get the stuff sorted from what I can see from the outside on the UCAD situation. Yeah, I mean, it's also we got to get through the rematch with Smith, but the one that we're focused on still making legally is of course Eubank Benn, and that's Chris Eubank Jr. But is it a fight for the future, Harlem Eubank? Absolutely.
Well, I look forward to it. Kalle, Sauerland, I wish you all the best this week. I'm looking forward to it, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.